So I've just spent like hours um, looking at old pictures of me from like 2020, 2019, when I was like 22 years old. And I was doing a lot of like this self improvement stuff back then, right? I was like going to the gym, I was taking these shirtless pictures, and I was trying different businesses as well. And I just about started to hear about meditation and those kinds of things at this point. And I'm seeing like all this time, like I'm looking at old pictures of me like on Google Photos. But there's always in my mind there's an iconic moment where my life skyrocketed around this point. And I tell the story all the time. It was in May 2020 because I moved back home. I moved to my family home. And you've probably heard me say that. If you've been like a big Hamza fan, you've heard me say that. What I've said a few times, but maybe nowhere near as much, is in March 2020, I actually did something more important than the official move back home, which was that I took one step, a small step, to heal what I'm going to start calling like the father wound. I got this idea to text my dad and to say thank you. For the first time in my life, I said thank you. Like, I'm grateful that he brought us to the UK because we were born in Pakistan. So I texted him that and I said, like, it must have been really hard to bring us to Pakistan because, we must have got there in like 1999 or 2000 or something, which is, like before like Google and ChatGPT in it. Like, how did he even know how to do this? Like, where do you go? I don't think Google Maps was even a thing. How do you go from Pakistan to, it wasn't a holiday. We got citizenship and whatever. So I thought like that must have been actually really hard. Like, because when I was born, we were actually in poverty in Pakistan as well. Like my sister and my brother would tell me the stories that my my parents would often go hungry so that we had enough food to eat. And I even had like sicknesses because I wasn't getting enough calories, right? So we were like poor. Like imagine like you were getting diseases because of a lack of like nutrients, vitamins, and whatever. I forgot what it was called. Um, I had some kind of condition. I remember them telling me, but like I was like so skinny and frail when I was like 2 years old. And so okay, we moved to Pakistan, and then me, my brother, my sister, we all got educated at like a degree level in this country, which is awesome. And you become fluent in English, which is so powerful. And I never really thanked my dad for that he was the one who brought us out. So this moment around here in like March 2020, I'm at like the height of like, like self-improvement depression stage where you kind of know, okay, you're going to the gym and whatever. But for some reason, things are just not moving. Like there's this invisible like constraint on the ceiling on top of your life for some reason. And I text my dad this and I said, here's the exact text, right? I said, thank you for bringing us to the UK. I didn't realize how important it was and how hard it must have been to come here. I just want a good relationship with the family. And then his response was, it was, but the most important thing is your guys' happiness. No good UK or Pakistan if you aren't happy. I had 1,000 times better job there. 650 people used to work under me. And here I worked as a laborer, but no regrets. So when I was born, we were very poor, but then like year after year, like I think we left when I was like 3 years old, he kind of like leveled up the sort of jobs he was working and eventually got to like a really good level. So from what I remember, it's like we weren't like, crazy wealthy, but we were like at like a good point. I remember we even had like servants in our house as well, which by the way is like not that crazy. Like to translate it, I think it probably would have been the equivalent of like 20,000-30,000 pounds a year in like a Western country. But if you're making that in Pakistan, it's kind of like a big deal, especially 1999 or 2000. So I didn't grow up rich, right? Because the moment we went to Liverpool in UK, we had like a little attached house. I went to the normal, like we were still basically poor. We were still trying to like, like having to save money and everything. And so I'm here, right? So it's like March 2020 and I'm really like struggling I'm working some job, not making good money. I'm in a relationship, which, you know, there's definitely some happy moments. Like I'm seeing pictures of us kind of like smiling, and like I'm taking a picture of her as she cooks. Because the way that she used to cook, she used to roll up her sleeves on like the hoodie she's wearing. And I told her that her mom does that as well, because her mom came to visit us sometimes. So then she found it funny, and there's pictures of her like posing like her mom does and everything. I was like, I was doing a lot of this self improvement stuff back then, but nothing was completely and utterly transformative up until I had that text conversation with my dad. And I remember I was like basically crying when I sent it to him. That let me to eventually, a few months later, move back to the family home with like a bit more of a sort of, you know, positive environment. Then there was another, so, you know, straight away that was like a boost of my self-improvement. I started to like exercise more and meditate more, and I got away from like a lot of the bad habits I was doing during the previous time period. Then another time, I think it was about a month or two into moving home, I remember I sat my dad down and I wrote him a letter. So I read it out loud where I said like, you know, I was grateful and whatever. I saw it in like an online course, and he cried, I cried. You know, it's kind of like, it feels a little bit kind of cringe, a little bit uncomfortable when you don't usually have conversations like that. I gave him the letter, and I remember he kept it in his wallet for like months or even years. Like I remember I mentioned it to him once, like a year later, as like a joke or whatever, and he pulled it out of his wallet then, like a year later. The lesson that I just wanted to give you is, this is gonna sound so crazy, but look, if you're right now, you're focused in on like money and fitness and girls and confidence, you know, the things that we do as young guys, if there feels like an invisible kind of like ceiling on top of your progress, like for some reason you're still basically the same kind of guy, even though you've been going to the gym and, you know, watching some of this content and, you know, you've been trying to level up, but you still, there's like this invisible constraint. You're still you. You've heard how some people have been able to like transform like crazy, but you're still relatively the same guy, even though you've been putting in progress. I actually think the constraint for some people, for guys like us, it's what we're going to start calling the father wound. And every time you take a step into healing this, and you basically, I'll teach you how to do this as well, like every time you take a step into healing this father wound, you'll break through this constraint, and I swear to God, it will feel like there's like two seasons of your life, that like that season before that text and the season afterwards. You'll start to define your life based on like the text that you sent your dad, or, you know, the season okay, then I moved back home. Oh, that's when, you know, we both cried, and then my business went up. I know it sounds crazy because, you know, you'd think, okay, business would go up when you work on business, fitness would go up when you work on fitness. But if you kind of probably know what I mean. There's like some invisible ceiling. You're not transforming. You're just slightly iterating, slightly making a bit of progress, but then also kind of resetting it with like some weird self-sabotage where you've made progress in the gym and then you quit for a few weeks, or you start eating a shit diet, or you've made progress in a business, but then you reset it again. You're stuck on this like invisible ceiling. I'm telling you right now, it's because of the wound with your father. It's the father wound. And I want you to try and heal it. I'm not like a professional at this at all, right? I've done a few times, and I've just done one then where I've just sent my dad like a massive message, and I got like, this is why I've got like some tears on my jumper, and I did this without the thought of like, you know, recording this as a video. I just kind of like just sat. I was looking through like old pictures of me, and I saw that one with the screenshot, and I thought like, oh yeah, like there's still so much I actually have to say to him, and like I was really, you know, I was listening to like emotional music and whatever, so I ended up sending him like a massive text message, and it feels like the same things just happened again, where it's like I feel like that was something you needed to say. So hopefully by now you agree with me. Okay, you can kind of like get, okay, I actually understand what Hamza's saying, and I think I do have like a bit of a father wound. How do you heal it? Most people online, I think they would tell you like, oh, well, go spend time with your parents, you know, call them. The problem with that, and it's what I've done before, is when you try and just spend time with your parents, it turns into a bit like mundane, right? Imagine if you just call your parents right now, or you just go hang out with your dad, right? it's a bit mundane. There's not much that's happening. He'll ask you, hey, how are you? Have you ate? Okay, good. And you'll ask him, hey, how are you? How was work? Like, it's a bit of a check-in kind of conversation. Nothing's happening. What you need is these deep conversations where both of you start crying, right? That's it. So when everyone else on who gives you advice will say like, oh, spend time with your parents, you can't really listen to that advice right now, because it's not about spending time with your parents. It's about basically healing this sort of wound that we have, this relationship that we have with our fathers, which isn't going to come from just spending time with each other. It's going to come from directly you basically saying something really deep, emotional, and vulnerable. And you know it's the right thing because you'll start crying when you say it, and you'll almost like cry like a little child or something. And so this is going to sound weird, but I actually think you should send a text to your dad, even if you live in the same house. When I'm thinking back to me when I was like this period, March 2020, so I must have been like 21 years old, 22 years old. If someone told me like, oh, call your dad and say these things, I wouldn't have. Imagine calling your dad and like crying on the phone and telling him like, oh, well, I'm so grateful for you, and you work so hard. I wouldn't have done it. It's like telling me like as a beginner, oh yeah, go bench press 140 kg. It's like, oh, okay, no, I can't do it. The equivalent of you bench pressing the bar is you sending a text to your dad, which is something sweet where you're in your kind of emotions, you're vulnerable, and you kind of thank him for the work that he's done. And if you've already kind of got to that level before, then the next level is being able to open up and telling him like some of the pain that you've had, but frame it in a way where he won't get on the defensive, depending on how sort of receptive you think your dad would be. You've got to use some emotional intelligence for this. If you feel like, if you're watching this and maybe you're more my age, like 28, and you feel like your dad is like, would be really receptive to this, then you can just say whatever's on your mind, and I think he'll accept it. If you're a bit younger and your dad's a bit younger, I think he might not be as receptive right now. And so you might have to come with a bit of a softer, more sweeter approach. The barber lathers a man with the foam first before he shaves. So lather him with the foam first before you use the blade, if that makes sense. Say some nice things, ease it in, then explain, okay, this is how I felt in childhood. This is the thing that hurt me, whatever. And I promise with every text you send like this, obviously you can't like just spam this now. Okay, Hamza, I've done 300 today. But with every moment like this, and there might be months in between each sort of instance of you trying to heal the father wound, you'll feel like this lightness. You'll realize you had this heaviness before, where you were tunnel visioned on all the real world things like the money and the muscles and whatever. And you'll feel this lightness of like a little boy again, as if you're like 5 years younger. If you had the right kind of conversation, you'll know it's the right conversation, and it just needs to be a text, by the way, if you start crying when you write it. So put on, it sounds a bit gay, but I think this is fucking cool, honestly, but like put on some like emotional music, lock your door so you feel safe, and write like a constructive message. And what I just did then was I didn't let myself kind of edit it. You're writing this message. I didn't let myself sort of edit it. I just wrote what came to mind. So it ended up being like a pretty big, unedited, kind of almost like first draft kind of message. And that's probably more if you think your father's going to be quite receptive to this kind of conversation. Maybe if he's not, you have to be a bit more sort of tactical with the way that you'd word things. When I look back to me in 2020, 21 years old, I'd been going to the gym for a while. I had decent physique. I'd been trying all these different businesses. I just started to learn about like maybe 6 months ago what like meditation was, or even like 1 or 2 years before this point, I downloaded like one of those meditation apps for the first time. I was making progress, and if you spoke to me back then, I would have said like, oh yeah, I'm making progress. It's pretty sweet, like I'm making more money. I'm gonna try one of these businesses. I'm gonna make money. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get fitter. But the exact moments, I'm scrolling up these pictures, the exact moment you can see that I moved back home, that's when my perception of this time, and it's interesting because I'll show you actually roughly, you can see like it turns like very green, like there's a lot of nature on the screen. Ignore like the stuff at the top that was like for a business, but basically there's like so much green from there. This was the moment that I felt like, okay, here's a new season of my life. There's so much green. Look, I'm like basically just spending so much time in nature like a healthy human being should, instead of just staying inside staring at the computer screen. So much nature. Even like I started to record YouTube videos. I'm just being careful of what I show you in case there's like videos of me clapping cheeks or something. My physique started to improve. My mental health drastically started to improve. Relationships improving, families improving, health, focus, like my ability to be present, my level of ambition. Everything felt like from this moment it went up. And I always, when I would tell this story on YouTube, I always used to think it was moving home that was the big thing. But when you think about it logically, if you've watched me for a while, you'll kind of think now, it's not really moving home or, like, this was my bias, right? I don't know if you've moved home or not, but like, or if you've ever even moved out, but like, if I moved home to a sort of unhealed, not ideal home, then my story might have been very different, right? It was not specifically just like moving addresses that changed my life. It was what came before it where I actually healed a bit of this sort of father wound, like my relationship with my father. That's what led me to go home to a home that was actually better than how it was when I grew up. If you're the type of person who I usually make videos for, where let's say you live at home with your father, so you don't get this experience that I did where I moved out and then I moved back in. But if you live at home right now and you're just usually kind of like shut in your bedroom and you're focused on like money and muscles and stuff, I would ask you just right now, just be honest. There's probably so much shit you have to say to your dad. So much. There's probably like a wound there that isn't part of any of your goals. Like if I asked you what was your goals before you clicked on this video, you would have said like, oh, your money, muscles, okay, 10K a month, and then fitness, bulk up to 170. But none of us set a goal on like healing our relationship with our father. Because it's a vague thing. You don't get to make like a smart goal for that, with like action steps of like, yeah, send him 52 text messages. You don't get to like, you can't like make this into the sort of physical world as much. You're doing all of the sort of masculine things of, okay, grind, which is awesome for you. Sometimes it's very healthy to step and feel the pain inside of you. I don't know if that's a feminine thing or not, it might be, but like sometimes it's very healthy to feel that pain inside of you and to think, oh yeah, well, what do I need to say? What, that pain inside of me, that wound that was caused probably from like 10, 20 years ago. And I never said some things. I held it inwards. That's what's causing like pain and sort of a constricting sort of upper ceiling for my success and my achievements and my happiness and presence and health. What did I not say? What tears did I not shed? If you're closer to my age, I think, because I'm 28, right? So when you get closer to my age, there'll be a sense of sadness rather than sort of attack with this, where you'll realize like your parents aren't getting younger. How much longer are you gonna go without having like these conversations where you both just like break down and you cry and you actually like say what needs to be said, and they accept it and they apologize and they tell you what their life was like? And why not just do that now? When I see like these pictures, you can just see my life gets so much better after that moment, after that text. And then the second time where I wrote my dad a letter, I think was about here in like June or July or something. And I just did so well in life. I literally became a millionaire like 3 years after doing this. I was able to focus, like all my brain just focused in on the business. I started to make better decisions. My physique got so much better. My attractiveness went up and everything. And I think it's because like when you hold some kind of like wound inside of you, imagine we hold like level 100 wound, or like 100, if you had to quantify like 100 wound. Every time you just chip it away a little bit, okay, now there's only 99 left, now there's only 88 left, you'll find everything in your life almost instantly will just get to the next level. Like my physique got way better in the, like that's not even realistic of how much progress my physique made in the space of like a month of me, looking at these pictures of 2 months. It looks like I've just gained like 2 to 3 years of, I'll show you this is like the after picture, right? Yeah. A fucking decent size, right? This was me when I was like 21, 22 years old. And if you saw the picture beforehand, you would have thought, wait, why? You made a lot of muscle and fitness in not much time until, 2 months. It looks more like a year or 2 years progress made in like a month. really wish this for you, because when I look at this, like the photo album, I can so clearly see such a transformation after I took that step. And it felt so uncomfortable, so unnatural for me, because I don't have those kinds of conversations usually. Yeah, I hope this helps you. I really hope you'll take this action step. If you just have to go even slow, and for me, I think if you kind of like lock the door and you kind of feel safe a little bit, and you ask yourself, okay, what needs to come out? What do I have to say to my dad? And then I think just writing a text, I think what's interesting is every time I've kind of done this and felt like I've made some progress, it's always been basically with a text, or one time it was with like a letter. But a text just feels like so kind of like safe. You get to say everything and almost like close your eyes. Like when I first made my YouTube channel, it felt so kind of uncomfortable and cringe that I used to upload a video and like not even watch it back, kind of like close my eyes, because I was like, oh, if I look at it, I'll delete it. And it feels the same with like sending these texts to my dad. Is like, I kind of send them and I don't want to read it again because I feel so uncomfortable. I'll just delete it or edit it or whatever. But I think that's a sign of like, that's what needs to come out, and you need to have some bravery. Like that's how you feel, and you need to be able to step into that. And there's so much value in being able to like feel the pain inside of you, pause for a moment and actually convey that and express that, but not in a way that would put someone on the defensive, but in a way that would make them yearn for getting closer to you. I have a feeling it's a weird thing where I feel like I've got to bribe you into saying, okay, do this because you'll have a better relationship with your father, and then you'll make more money, because that's what like our minds are like when we're young guys. We're just focused on like some of our goals. But I think you really will actually progress in your goals when you do this. But also the most important thing in life is your relationship, your family, your friends, and like the people in your life. And so why not just take this uncomfortable step right now? Send your dad a text. Say what you need to say. I really hope it goes well for you, because the moment I've just done it again for the first time. It's been a little while actually that I've had like a sort of vulnerable conversation, or not even a conversation, just a one-sided text. And I instantly stood up, and I swear to God, I felt like lighter, like I'd been carrying like this invisible weight I did not know. I've been living life and living to the routine. Okay, wake up. Okay, gotta meditate. Gotta clean my diet a bit. Okay, I've been training. Okay, I'm gonna meet this girl. Whatever. You're just living normal life. And now that I've done this, I'm like, wait, what? You were living that life which you thought was completely normal, with like a 5 kg plate just like stuck onto like your stomach or your back or your throat or something, and it's just come off, and I didn't even realize it was like that. I hope this helps you. Goodbye.